It's a hot one, really, really hot one. Not only in the Northeast, not only in Ryan's new location, but this whole country and this whole world. But yet, we will not let that stop us. As long as the mics work and haven't melted, and we haven't melted, we're going to keep it productive. For another edition of the Tweet Cap, we have Ryan Page as he's fixing some technical difficulties right now. We'll start that in a second. Hey, Ryan, do you hear us? Can't hear you, Ryan. Try that one more time. I'm just going to pause this really quick. You won't even notice. All right, 1 second. Now, take two, everybody. So for the first time, well, no, the second time, because we had a pause in between shows for a fire drill, but seems like everything's working. And Ryan Page is here for another edition of the Tweet Cap. What's up, Ryan?
How's it going, Matt? Thank you for having me back.
Good to see you as we kicked off this new season of the podcast earlier this week. Figure the next one here is the Tweet Cap. And as I mentioned, it's really hot today. I think that's definitely the one story this whole world connects with. I mean, you heard about like from pipes bursting in Texas to like the London airports melting and all this. I mean, Ryan, why is it so hot?
Well, it's July, so that probably helps to explain a little bit. But I feel like you know what I'm going to say. And I feel like you asked me to say it. And I'm not going to say it. We all know why it's too hot. And I'll have plenty of other things for folks to yell at me about for watching too much CNN or whatever ridiculous comment we had that one time. Mm-hmm. By the way, I've never watched CNN. That's not true. I'm sure I have at some point, but never consciously. But anyway, not the point. We all know why it's super hot. We all know why it's going to continue to be hot. And we all know how we can fix it. What we decide to do with that information is apparently up for debate. Don't know why, but it is.
Okay. We'll keep that subliminal.
But it's a good segue. Actually.
In the end, just do what's right for this planet. But as we do always in the Tweet Cap, Ryan, we're going to talk about the trending stories on Twitter and this whole world. We'll have you kick it off. What do you have for us to start, Ryan?
Sure. So as I said, London is burning, and that's an excellent segue because earlier this week, I was actually very interested to see Prince Harry trending on Twitter. And I didn't know why. And in fairness, he doesn't really need a reason because him and his wife are very famous. But apparently, he spoke on Nelson Mandela's birthday. That's what I'm going to say. I could be wrong about it. Is Nelson Mandela themed. I believe it's his birthday. It was at the UN. And he went ahead and he had some choice words to say about the United States of America and our recent decisions. And it got him into some trouble on Twitter. One of the trend. I mean, obviously, just his name was trending, and Prince Harry was trending, and but shortly after, the hashtag Prince Harry is racist began trending, seemingly in retaliation from Americans who were upset with what he had to say about America to the UN. And so I thought that was very interesting because, in fairness, I think we've talked about this a couple times. Americans don't care that much about the royal family. And even with Meghan Markle being his wife, they somehow care about them less than like the actual queen and all that, who are completely British. But I just thought it was very interesting that we got very upset. Americans did, and he didn't say anything that was necessarily wrong either. I don't know if you heard what he said.
I did not. Do you have the quotes at the top of your head or paraphrasing?
No, it was a pretty long speech, but I mean, basically, he was upset about the same thing that everyone else in the UN has been upset about. It's all part of a much longer series that started a few weeks back when the Supreme Court overturned the Roe decision. That's what the entire thing was about. Again, the UN has condemned the United States already. Not so strong, of course, because we're one of the big guys over there, but a little bit. But Prince Harry, in fairness, actually went a little bit harder than the actual UN did in his speech about human rights and the rights of women. And about the United States not necessarily upholding those rights. So again, I get why people attacked him. I'm just surprised how quickly they were able to find those videos, because I didn't know that he had any racism allegations against him, but he has like 4. Yeah, like from when he was in the army, he like used a bunch of racial slurs on video. that was the big one that I just saw. There was another one too from even earlier, like when he was an actual like teen. And then I went down the rabbit hole because he had the leaked nudes. So I guess Prince Harry had some fun. I didn't know that. So the fact that Americans were able to respond within like 6 hours or less even of this speech with all of his dirty laundry, I thought was, I mean, I don't want to say I'm proud of it because I happen to think he was right. And I think that the people who are posting these things are doing so for all the wrong reasons. But it was crazy that the United States, got it trending instead of the actual speech on dating.
I think that probably shows where we are in society. People don't have time to trend the whole speeches of these, whether you're a politician, whether you're in entertainment, whether you're some type of public figure. We only want the juicy stuff. We only want what's controversial. We only want what's going to get people annoyed and upset. And it seems here the Prince of, is it officially Prince? Not Prince.
I think he's Prince of Wales, isn't he? I think he's the Duke of Wales or something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Well, he's in the royal family, and
they're all something. They all have like 4 names. Their actual name is like 4 names long.
Yeah, and but the bottom line is, while this country, after the controversial reversal of the Supreme Court's decision to reverse the Roe v. Wade ruling, and now clearly everybody has their opinion, and they definitely have the right to. But Prince Harry is so far the one that has the most noise on this, as we're still trying to figure out what the heck's going on.
I don't know about the most noise, but it was definitely an interesting,
a lot of noise.
Interesting side quest, because I didn't expect Prince Harry to come out more strongly than like, Nancy Pelosi, but he did, at least at first. If you compare their first comments, he definitely had a better first comment than she did. But I think what I thought was most interesting about this whole thing is it also comes, and we're not going to get too far into this because neither one of us are experts in this, but I just thought it was also interesting that he really gets to play his I'm from the UK except for when I'm not card here.
Yeah.
Being
married to an American.
Right, because he's from the UK criticizing America at the UN at the same time that the UK's prime minister had to resign. Them's the breaks, Boris Johnson. And he hasn't really said that much about that. So and he has a lot of time.
Allegations against him as well of sexuality.
Yeah, parties.
Allegedly.
All those parties and stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought it was interesting. I was like, so he's British at the UN, excoriating America, but he's not going to weigh in on the British stuff because he lives in California. So he really does get the best.
I forgot about that aspect.
Yeah, so he does get the best of both worlds here. He can be British when he needs to make a statement about America, but when anything happens in the UK, he could just stay quiet and sit in California.
Must
be nice.
This could be a transition for the story
Sure.
I'm going to bring up as we talk about major families with quote unquote influence. The British family has been influential throughout the world's history, forever.
Yeah,
and
centuries.
Still have. There's this other family, an American family, whether we like it or not, they have a lot of influence. And that is the Kardashian Jenner clan that we are just so obsessed with. And even after the Keeping of the Cup with the Kardashian ends and they go to Hulu, they're still a big deal. And this story that came out that I thought was interesting, that may relate to our subliminal environmental issues and stuff. Which one is it? I have to just make sure because I get them confused between the Kylie Jenner and the Kendall Jenner and the this, that, and the other. Did you hear? Let me, as my very old computer is being slow getting the right Jenner. Okay.
The right Jenner.
So Kylie Jenner allegedly did a 17-minute flight on a private jet, which would have. She was going, I think, from one side of LA to the other, which would have been the equivalent of a 45-minute ride. And she still took a private jet anyways. And, she's getting flagged. She's getting criticized. And I mean, yeah, it's literally their world and we're just living in it. Now, I know the concerns about having private jets and then the people, it's easy for them to criticize. But let me ask. If you had that opportunity, anybody, Would you complain? Would you contradict yourself? Would you take a 15-minute airplane ride? I mean, that's a bit excessive, but anyone who goes on private jets and stuff like that, don't you think a lot of people would probably do the same thing she did?
So I have no issues with private. I mean, I shouldn't say I have no issues, but I get it. Private jets. First of all, there's a bunch of delays in air travel. We could all be so lucky as to get a guaranteed flight to leave when we needed to leave and arrive when we needed to arrive. So I'm not going to fault someone for doing that. I'm also not going to fault someone necessarily for doing what would be considered a short flight. I've moved obviously since last we spoke when I was in Jersey.
Yes.
And there's a lot of airports near me now. And a lot of short flights to places that I used to go to, but have not taken any yet. I've only done the driving, and it's long. It's very long. Even if it's an hour and a half flight, and you might be like, why would you fly an hour and a half? Because it could be, especially with traffic, it could be almost a 6-hour drive.
Oh.
And depending on how fast you have to be there, it may not be an option. However, if it's a 45-minute drive from where you're at, then you're not running that late. There's no way you're running so late that you need to take the faster 15-minute private jet option over the 45-minute drive. And again, I assume she doesn't drive, right? We have to assume she doesn't drive. So it's not even like, I have to drive versus if someone else flies me. Someone else is driving. So what? She's going to do work on the plane. Let's assume she was going to do work on the plane. She was going to do a call, right? Or some sort of, I say work. I don't know what her day consists of, but she has projects, right? So let's say she was going to take a meeting. If anything, she's got more time in the back of the car for the meeting than she does on the airplane. There is no reason to fly across the city. There is none. And I will tell you now, if I had a private jet and I was in LA, I would not fly across the city. I would take a car. I would take a train. There's other ways to get across Los Angeles that are not private jet. And you said, it was interesting. You said it's their world and we're just living in it. And no, that's factually wrong. It's literally the only thing they can't buy is the world. We all have to live there.
Yeah, they have to.
It's not their world.
One aspect of it.
It's yes. It's their their media markets. They have lots of money. There's a lot of things that they can buy. They can't buy the planet. We all have to live there. So unless
they probably have been trying to.
Elon, who would have been probably the only person we could talk about had the deal gone through on a Tweet Cap episode. But he might send everybody to Mars, and the Kardashians might pick up space, and Kim will be the first lawyer in space. And you know what? It'll be great. If that's what they want to do and they have lots of money, they can do that. But as of now, we have to share the planet. And I've never taken a private jet across Los Angeles. So I think no one should. And I know that, again, you can't enforce that. And I'm not saying they should enforce that. It's not an enforceable thing, right? Some things you just can't, make mandatory. You can't mandatory you have to drive if you're only going 45 minutes. But just as a decent person, you should say, I don't really need to fly. And you don't. The only thing I could think of, genuinely, is if there was a lot of people going with her. If she had a full team, like a big team. But honestly, take 2 cars. Like, it's still not even a good reason, but at least, and I don't know the story, so maybe if she had like a big team, if they're about to do a photo shoot, so she had all the photographers, all of her people, all of the, whatever, like if it was a big team going to like a job or whatever, then maybe. And not maybe, because it's still wrong, but at least I could then see the thought process. But if she just was like, oh, well, I'm working right now, but I'm heading out to hang out with some friends across town, I know what I'll do. Take a plane. That's wrong. You shouldn't have done that. And Twitter, you got this one right. Continue to be mean to her about this, because you know what? No harm, no foul. And people on Twitter do take it too far. I'm not saying this person should, lose their television show because they took a plane. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it was stupid and it was not considerate. And I don't think it's wrong for people to say it was stupid and inconsiderate. I think that's fair.
And it's funny because they do have other examples in this Los Angeles Times article. We had Drake took a 20-minute trip from Barcelona to Ibiza, Spain. But it says here, He didn't get as much heat. Perhaps it was because it was an island hop. You also had Steven Spielberg took a 24-minute flight from
but hold on,
Teterboro
though.
to the Hamptons.
We'll get into that because that's not okay. Because you can get to the Hamptons by car, but in Island is different. And I get it; it's not far away. But was he going to do swim?
People at Twitter would literally tell him to swim.
He could charter a boat, I guess. So
actually, that's going to relate to my story. Another story I have later.
If he was going to be, if he was going to be considerate, he could have chartered a boat to take him. But at that point, if you're chartering a boat or you're chartering a plane, at that point, I can see where you could just be like, let's just take a plane. You know what I mean? But if your car is in the driveway and you're like, nah, I'm just going to fly, that's wrong. If you could take your car or you could take a bus or a train and you just decide not to, that's different than saying, well, I have to buy something because I can't make it there on my own. My car can't make it there. The bus can't make it there. The train can't make it there. So no matter what, I'm paying for a ticket on something, be it a big boat or a big plane. But again, listen, yes, right decision for the planet. Take the boat, I believe. I guess it probably depends on the boat. I'm sure you could take a boat big enough to make it worse, and I'm sure they probably have. But but also the Hamptons are not. That's not an island either.
It's for Mr. Spielberg to go from Teterboro there. Even
he just didn't want to He just didn't want to do the traffic. That's like horrible. He wasn't going to work in the Hamptons. That was 100% a vacation.
Yeah, there's no one works. He's not making Jaws 2.
Right. No one works in the Hamptons. So that's not why he went. At least in LA, you can pretend that it was for work, right? Mm-hmm. But no, he wasn't working. He was going on vacation. He's like, oh, that bridge is going to be horrible. And he took a plane. That's exactly what happened. And that's the worst one I've heard so far.
I think it just shows. And if you're rich, they're going to fly regardless, no matter how many emissions they put into the air.
Yeah. And I always hate that when people are like, we shouldn't do anything to save the planet because, Steven Spielberg is going to fly to the Hamptons. And I always hate that because that's so defeatist. But at the same time, don't fly to the Hamptons if you're in, anywhere else in New York. Just don't. If you're in New York, don't fly to the Hamptons.
They literally can get a huge bus or tour bus that will fill like a moving house at this point. But too lazy.
That would almost be more fun to me, in my opinion. I know, again, if you're going to work, and you don't have the time, then I can see why that could be more difficult. But if you've got time, I would love to go on I used to love taking the bus from my college in Rochester, New York to New York City, where my parents would pick me up. I did the train one, and I drove after a while because I needed a car up there anyway. But I did the train once, and I didn't like it at all. I really liked the bus. And so, you know what? Buses are fun. People should do buses more.
Everybody's talking about me. I'll hear that. All right, Ryan. The next story. What do you have?
Sure. So we're gonna keep it nice and upbeat because the world's on fire. Mm-hmm. I saw Black Mirror trending 2 days ago, and I was very excited. Yeah. So
is there a new season coming up?
Well, no, that's what makes it bad. So I thought there might be, and I was like, oh, I love Black Mirror. It's one of my favorite shows. And anyway, there's an episode. I want to say it's called Prey. I'm going to be wrong. I'll look it up. But there's an episode of Black Mirror where there are these dogs, robot dogs, right?
Robot dogs.
Yeah, and they're killing people. They're not good dogs. And so I found out why Black Mirror was trending. So those dogs the robot dogs that we now have for police work, and they had made them dance and stuff like that. When they were showing them off in Boston where they were built. Have you seen those? They have like the curved foot. They don't look like a dog. They're really just a little bot with like on four legs, essentially. It's a robot on 4 legs.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Well, anyway, there's a video out in Russia. It's called Metalhead, by the way, is the name of the episode. Season 4. Metalhead, yeah. So there's a video of Russia, and these dogs, they look exactly like the real life dogs that we've built, because of course they do. And this one in Russia was able to fire a submachine gun or an assault rifle off its back. So they're using him to kill people now. So the fun dancing dog from the Robotics Expo in Boston is officially strapped. And it was reminding fans of the Black Mirror episode where literally this is exactly what happened. They built the robot dogs and then they gave them guns because it was more effective than using people. And I just want to say, as much as I love Black Mirror, I don't want any of it to come true. And
that's what a lot of people always say all the time after seeing. That's
Yeah.
about to see that. That's about to happen soon.
But honestly, yeah. And so following the Black Mirror trending, right? Obviously, the dog is what the main story is, and Vice is the one who covered it. So if you want to learn more about the robot dogs in Russia, because honestly, we're probably going to hear about them if they're genuinely being used in Russia, given what's happening over there.
Mhm.
It's a Vice story, so you should check it out. But Twitter was responding to the Vice story, of course, and they were just talking about all of the various, Prime Minister of England embroiled in scandal. It's like the third episode or whatever that just happened. It's super freaking hot. Black Mirror covers that all the time. It's so Black Mirror has been like getting closer and closer, and I think I came to the conclusion last night that that's why they'll never make another season. As much as I love it, and as much as I thought it was trending because they made another season,
they're almost too into it. They're actually predicting.
Yeah,
more. It's too powerful of a show.
What are you gonna write? It's all happening. All of it's happening in real life. Not all of it. That's what crazy people say, and I'm not crazy. I'm not insane. I'm exceptionally sane, which is what all sane people say. But there's they're just getting a little close to home. And I'm like, they'll never make another one now because those writers are like, nah, they're going to be like, we brought this into the world. They're going to take responsibility, I think. But anyway, I saw Black Mirror trending. When I saw it trending, I was like, oh, this is perfect. I love that show. We could talk about my favorite episodes. We could do all sorts of things on the Tweetcap. I was like, I'm so excited to talk about this on the Tweetcap. And then I got into it. I was like, no, I'm still going to talk about it, but this isn't positive like I wanted it to be after the whole Prince Harry and London being on fire and the Prime Minister getting kicked out for partying too hard. Them's the breaks. Did you hear his speech? I'm sorry, I hate to go back to this, but did you hear his speech?
I did not hear his speech till you brought it up today, but I read some of the comments and he's a real bro. No matter if you're a prince, if you're a bro.
Not Prince Harry, Boris Johnson. His resignation speech.
No, I didn't see that either.
He went outside and he said he loved his job and he's sad that it's ending this way, but them's the breaks. And I just love that. I think and we're gonna have a bunch of people probably resign from office in disgrace in this country coming up, and when that happens, they should all say "and them's the breaks" because I thought it was hysterical. I genuinely laughed out loud.
As you know, I sent you this TikTok list earlier this week from from this guy using a stereotypical, Twitter dancer, getting down low, and then he's like, "Oh, go register to vote."
Ken Russell, yeah.
Yeah, that's more of a positive version, but it seems that all these politicians who we like to criticize being old geezers, boomers, and everything, they're just trying to be hip, whether you're out the door or you're trying to stay in it. Do you think this is the way to go? Do we have to, for lack of a better word, dumb down to make yourself cool or hip or camp?
Okay, a couple things. One, I think Boris Johnson just genuinely talks that way. I think that's how smart he is. Or I'll put it that way. That's his level of intelligence. Them's the breaks is where he went. I don't believe it was meant to dumb it down for the kids. I think it was just what he wanted to say, which, you know what, I'm good with. I thought it was hysterical. But I will say that I don't think it's dumbing it down necessarily. What I think, and I could be wrong about this, and I know you actually personally disagree with me. You think that you see the Ken Russell stuff, and I think Ken Russell does a good job. But and you see some of the other things that were on. I'm assuming you read that entire Twitter thread, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So did I. So good. So we did
a mixture of definitely all types of people of that.
Yeah, and they had other examples of, like I said, they had Elizabeth Warren doing the flip the switch challenge on SNL. Which was actually also very funny. But so when it goes to that one, that's an example, right? So let's say you're a millennial or a zillennial like us, right? We're right on that border there.
Zillennial. That's a good way to put it. And
you don't pay attention, right, to this stuff as closely as maybe some of the older folks in your life do. And so you see Elizabeth Warren do flip the switch with Kate McKinnon. very funny. I laughed. I thought it was well done, which makes sense. There was an actual comedian in the video. But what did you learn about Elizabeth Warren? And I'm not saying this to be mean about her or anything like that. I actually happened to.
I learned that she's willing to make fun of herself on an easy platform like SNL, who have been criticized being a little too easy on these politicians.
Or what about
lately.
this? So again, I'm putting Ken Russell to the side for just a second, and I'll get to them. But there was another one, candidate who shared his own TikTok on the thread to get people to see it. And it was the toxic person one. You saw this. He's a senator or state senator or whatever from Pennsylvania. And you see a toxic person, we walk the other way. And he was pointing at things like doesn't support a woman's right to choose. But he never names his opponent. And he also never claims to support those things. He just points out a negative thing, doesn't support a woman's right to choose. Doesn't support common sense laws for keeping kids safe in schools, right? And he would point at it, and then they would say toxic person, and then he would walk the other way. And it was funny, it was clever, and it fit with the TikTok, right? Like that's the theme of the TikTok. But what did we learn? I looked him up. I had to click into his account and see who he was, that he was a state senator in Pennsylvania. I still don't know who he's running against. He doesn't mention what his political affiliation is. I can guess it based on the TikTok, but if you're not paying attention, you can't necessarily guess it. It needs to be using these platforms is fine, but using them the way that kids actually use them, as important as it is to reaching kids, isn't helpful. That Ken Russell TikTok, he told you when it happened, when you needed to register to vote, when the election was, and of course who he was, because he wants your vote. He gave people information. So he did the viral thing did the spin down, and he appeared, and it was very funny. But then when you listened to it, you actually heard something. So I think everyone needs to do that. They can't just do a viral trend. Like, again, flip the switch challenge. You learn nothing from watching your candidate do a flip the switch challenge. You learn absolutely nothing about them other than that they did this challenge. So that's, in my opinion, that's not effective. Really. I mean, listen, if it's early in the campaign and no one knows who you are, right? If you're like a state representative running for governor and you're like, no one knows my name, I'm just a random guy, then fine. Maybe you do something like that to go viral, to get your name out there. And it doesn't matter that they don't know anything about you. At least they know who you are. It'll be easier for you to talk to people later. But most of the time, I would say that's not effective. And then I worry, and again, I know you don't worry about this, but I do, that people don't pay attention. So even in the Ken Russell video, which I think he did correctly, he gave information, and it was also a viral trend, and so it was perfect. I mean, I'll ask you, granted, it's not important. You don't live in that state. Did you hear when he said you needed to vote?
Not do you know? I cared more about laughing like, oh, ha, ha. He's doing something different.
And so that's what I'm worried about, is that we're spending, I say we, I'm not running for anything, but the politicians that I like, are spending too much time on the viral trend aspect and trying to get in on these like TikTok trends and get to people on Instagram or whatever, that's not really going to be effective because people are not using, especially TikTok and especially Instagram. And I get it. I see the reports all the time. I actually just watched something on YouTube. Wisecrack covered this about TikTok, about people are getting news from TikTok and they are hearing, current events stuff from TikTok. But I just don't think people are paying attention that way. I don't know. Like, again, I don't know if anybody, heard when that primary election was in Florida. I don't think they did. I don't think anyone who watched that for the most part knew when that was. And so even though I think he did it the best you can do it, it's still ineffective. And so I would say that you should use these platforms, but worry less about being on trend. And I get you have to do a little trending because you need to get on people's For You page. If you make bad content, you're not going to be on anyone's page. But just talk. I mean, listen, it's boring. Being a senator should be boring. Being a mayor should be a little boring. Like it should. And listen, I'm sure it's a great job. You're serving people, which is also very important. Someone's got to do it. Well, I mean, mayor, like state senator. Yes, United States senator, and all that stuff. Yes, but I'm talking locally even, because some of those people on those and there were local. But either way, besides the Bay Day, like it's important work. Someone's got to do it. That's just a fact. But it's not supposed to be fun. It's kind of boring. So unfortunately, that means what you have to talk about is going to be kind of boring. But that means you just have to deliver what people are asking for. Just do what they want. I mean, young people have been very clear in the last however many years specifically about their priorities. I don't believe that there's been, I don't think anyone could with a straight face say, oh, what do young people believe? Like, what do they want? I mean, literally, this is a a podcast rather, about Twitter. Just go on that app. You'll hear what at least a sum, and I know they're not all real, as Elon Musk would point out very, very quickly. But you know what I mean? Like, you can find out what people our age care about.
Oh yeah,
Most of them will
that's
tell
why
you.
I've taken the more, like, if you really look at comment sections, like Instagram and YouTube and all that, it is
Right.
how the general consensus feels. I was much younger.
Well,
I thought it was
it's
stupid.
it's the general consensus of the internet, which is very different than the
Fair
normal
enough.
people.
But you
But
get
still,
the gist of how people feel, and
yeah. So just do that. Don't worry about being the most viral. Listen, you're never going to compete with the actual TikTokers, the people who are making an actual career off these videos. You're just not going to. So you know what? If you want to do a cute little thing like a flip the switch challenge, do it. But then stop. Don't do the dance and say something important. And then follow that up by doing whatever you just said. So if you're talking about protecting, I don't know, contraception, which is something that might need protecting now.
oh yeah,
When you do your flip the switch challenge, instead of dancing on your turn to the camera and tell them
talk.
when the vote is, tell them how you're voting, and tell them why. And again, maybe they won't listen, but even if they watch your video and you don't say anything, they still learn nothing about you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you tell them what you're going to do, and then this is the key part, do it, like accomplish it, you'll be fine. And this is for both parties, as much as I don't like to talk about one of the two political parties all that much. This is for both of them. If you don't have to pander. You just have to meet people where they are physically and then deliver on whatever it is you told them. People are listening. If you go on Instagram and you go Instagram Live and you tell people, here's how I'm voting, they'll hear it. They won't be their favorite video of the year. You're certainly not going to go viral, but they'll hear it. And then if you follow up, they'll be like, oh, I remember when he said that. Or I remember when she said that. And boom. Now they know that they know who you are. You met them where they are and you told them what you're going to do, and then you did it. And that's the part. The people keep trying to figure out a way around doing it. They're like, let's find all of the best ways to reach the most people and get the most people to like us and all that, which is fine. But if you don't do it after or worse, if you don't tell people what you're going to do, no one's going to like you. Like, not as a politician. They might like you as a person. Like, oh, yeah, they're very funny. But if they don't know what you stand for, they're not going to just vote for you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's
I do know
it's
what you
insulting. It's insulting young people. They think young people just, oh, I know that name. Check the box. They're not that. we're not that dumb. And
yeah,
I mean,
take us more seriously, all the younger generations. And
yeah, it's just, I'm not saying we're the most civically engaged, because we're not, but we're also not dumb. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a middle ground between idiots and statesmen. There's somewhere in the middle, and I believe that's where most of the people our age fall.
And remember, who's the one who's going to decide if you're going into the retirement home or not? Take us seriously. And listen, legislation hasn't been trending or cool in an entertaining way since Schoolhouse Rock, I'm Just a Bill. And that is pushing 47 years. So,
and I'm Just a Bill doesn't talk about anything, actually. Yeah. It just talks about the process of writing a bill. There's no actual bill he says he's just a bill. We don't know what he's about.
Yeah, and
it could be horrible. It could be a horrible bill.
That was the
we don't know.
That was the peak of political science, clearly, in a trending wise. But they'll always try, rock the vote, all that. Ryan, I want to switch it up a little. My story,
Let's.
which I'm really interested in your perspective. And even though this guy is a legendary artist, I think this is a real reflection of specifically the concert and ticket industry. Bruce Springsteen, obviously a living legend, has been around since the 70s, just announced his big arena tour in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, tickets are really expensive. No matter if you're going to see Bruce Springsteen or Hanson or the Wiggles, it's really expensive to get a ticket to any concert. And now I think this is really going to be a peak of where the concert's going. Ticketmaster announced that they are usually the ones who sell are the first sell face value tickets before they hit the second market. Ticketmaster is usually the one that sells it on behalf of Live Aid or wherever. You go to Ticketmaster for the face value, not second market tickets where they turn a $5 ticket into a $500 ticket.
Well, and then Ticketmaster sells everything to the second market, so they make money on both ends. But that's beside the point. Continue.
Exactly. So they announced that they started this program called dynamic pricing. And basically that dynamic pricing program, also known as platinum tickets, they can be placed anywhere in the arena, whether you're in the front row or all the way in the back. And we're focusing here on concerts, right?
Yeah.
They create fluctuant prices depending on the reaction of the demand. The more popular the artist is, the more expensive the ticket is. And now that reflects not only into the front row, but all the way in the back. And now in this country, not only in, like New York City area, which tickets are already expensive. This is like also happening in Tampa. This is happening in the Midwest. This is happening in the West Coast. They're selling these tickets because of the demand for face value. The average price to see Bruce Springsteen, no matter if you're in the front row or all the way in the back, they're selling between $4,000 to $5,000 a seat.
So is he selling out?
They haven't announced those numbers yet. It's been a huge backlash to it. One specific person tried to buy a ticket for Tampa show. The face value already was $3,849 in the middle of the arena, and a $569 in fees. So $4,500 for one ticket. Now, I understand Bruce Springsteen may be somewhat of a special case because he's been around a long time, but I think this is just reflected, especially because of his popularity. We'll pick let's say like Billie Eilish, who's popular for Gen Z. Like her tickets could be on this kind of level. Like Ryan. And the big thing, especially people hated about Bruce Springsteen, this is Bruce Springsteen. You're a blue collar. You're for the working man. Now you're charging people $5,000 to see him. And I really think my mother will actually pay that price for it.
Well, so I'm not sure Bruce Springsteen is actually charging these prices. I would like to make that clear. He may not have any control over the prices of his own tickets. That's a separate issue. You should look into that. Not you. People should look into that.
That's one of the things also been mentioning here, that they're asking him to actually make a statement because of the message he likes to bring about working class families and stuff. So you continue though.
Yeah, so I would say that just as a caveat, there might be, he might literally have no control over this. There's actually been cases of artists coming out publicly and saying, my tickets are too expensive, and then nothing happening because they don't set the prices of their tickets. However, to anyone who's listening, and I've left New Jersey. I'm no longer in New Jersey. And
where are you for people
from New Jersey?
Where people for the audience to know where you are now?
I'm in DC now.
Look at that.
But to listen to him sing about the shore and a turnpike, it's not worth $5,000. It's just not. And at some point, and again, I'm not actually blaming him because I don't know if he has any say in the matter. But at some point, the people who did set these prices are going to learn. We just talked about Netflix because their quarterly. So this is also on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Their quarterly report was a big win because they didn't lose as many people as they thought they would. Yeah, because they increased their prices. Like, celebrity culture is in a weird spot right now. And actually, this goes back to what we were just talking about, because there are teens in Kansas who are doing funny dances, who are genuinely as popular online as these other people. So that you can see for free. You could do a meet and greet at a mall for some of these TikTok guys. Remember that? This is not TikTok though. But remember Vine when they used to have meet and greets for Vine guys
Yes,
and
I
girls?
do. Hey,
Like
Logan
people,
Paul started with that.
yeah, and it wasn't that expensive, but these people were so popular, right? They were so popular online that people would go in person to get an autograph from these Vine guys. And it's only continued in that direction. So if on one hand, you watch these people on TikTok way more than you watch Bruce or any of these actors. You know what I mean? Like Stranger Things. You watch those kids for a season and then they go away for 3 years. They're millionaires, but that's what you do. And then Bruce Springsteen, you listen to his song on Spotify or whatever, but you don't see him. He's not really a part of your life. You like him. These other people are actually in your phone every day, and they are only $50 to go get an autograph. But Bruce Springsteen gets 5,000. It's not sustainable. It's never going to. The math is never going to add up. It's only going in the other direction. They need to find a way. Accessibility is literally the key to everything. If you're accessible, if you're everywhere, and I understand for Bruce Springsteen, he's older. He probably doesn't care. He's a lot of money. So maybe for him, he's like, whatever. I don't need to be accessible. I'm really rich. And that's fine. And I don't even fault him for it. But if you're like newer, if you're a Billie Eilish, then this dynamic seating thing where the cost can be roughly the same depending on demand for your tour overall. Because, like, listen, I get it. In California, maybe. I think she's from there. If she's not, she lives there now, I assume. Sure. You could probably get a stadium of people to pay $2,000. But if that
even as per person.
Yeah. But if that price then goes across the country because that's the demand in California and your people are just literally taking an aggregate, you're going to have a horrible, horrible show. Everywhere besides the two coasts. And honestly, even on the two coasts, it depends on where you go. You know what I mean? Like they need to, the markets are not the same.
Yeah, that's
in the middle of this country. I honestly, if it were me, I would try and flood my tour with Midwest shows and with Southern shows.
Mm-hmm.
I would
have a big show in Wyoming.
Do like one show in New York. One show, and don't even do it in LA. Do it in like Sacramento or San Diego, right? Like, don't even do a big show don't do it in both. So if you're going to be in LA because you're West Coast based, then you're not going to New York City. You're going to like Jersey. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like something. And then just fill it with like Kansas City, right? Fill it with Cleveland. Fill it with all these other places. To that way keep your prices down. But I just don't. I mean, but then again, if all of your fans live in LA and you refuse to go there to keep prices down overall, I don't know how that doesn't really help you either.
Yeah, that's my big question. Do you think that this trend will? I guess do you think you answered it a little bit already, but you think this has to be the bottom line where we're deciding are these promoters really going to force people to pay $5,000 to see their favorite artists as the years go by, or somebody going to have some common sense? I mean, I don't even think the scalpers could even. I guess they accomplished their goal to get rid of scalpers because they can't even compete with the fake tickets. But I don't know. I mean, it's tough, man. Like, I know the Red Hot Chili Peppers are going to be at MetLife in August, my absolute favorite band, but I just won't be able to see them due to that. Their prices, I mean, they're not dynamic seating, but they are starting at like $300 right now. I just understand. I'm just hoping that when they go to tour again in 5 years, they'll have the same energy. But it's just too bad. And like, all these tickets for all these games, no matter, I mean, baseball tickets for the first time are getting really expensive, and all the sports, it's just like they really making it hard to have that special experience to go into an event.
It's greed. It's greed.
Pure greed.
It's pure greed. And the only way it works is
get a rich job so you can afford it.
No, just stop going. And it wasn't, people don't like to hear that. and I don't like to hear that. There's things I like and I wouldn't want to stop going, but that's the only way it'll change. And in fairness,
that'd be
now
an
it will
awesome protest.
but now it has to, though, because people can't. I mean, right now, look at the way that things are right now with gas prices and groceries and inflation.
Yeah.
People can't pay that much money. People can't pay $300 for the chili peppers. I mean, some people can, sure. Some people can. And so now your options are we performing for the people who are wealthy enough to see us?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we going to change? And you know what? Some people are going to make the decision, and it'll be based off of their own, their own metrics. They'll see, oh, you know what? We're still selling out. So maybe we have affluent fans. A lot of these acts are older. So the people who like these acts, by and large, not everybody, but by and large, people who like Bruce Springsteen, the Chili Peppers, etc., are older. They have more discretionary income, probably not guaranteed.
That was one of the arguments I read in the article.
Probably. So maybe these artists are going to sit there and say, yeah, whatever. And then you know what, artists, and then on the other end, maybe artists like Billie Eilish, they're at the point where their fans are kids, like legitimate kids still. So kids don't have any money. It's parents, and that's the same group of people who have the money to go see Bruce Springsteen. Mm-hmm. They can see Billie Eilish. They have the money for it. Do they want to? I don't know, but their kids want to, and you like to do things for your children. So maybe again, but I think there's that middle group who's going to be like, this doesn't work for us because our fans are too old to get their parents to buy the ticket, and they're too young to have a lifetime of savings to dip into to come see us. So there needs to be for those artists who there needs to be a middle ground. And honestly, what is going to happen is I think younger artists, if there's no actual change, if the older artists and the more popular artists don't change it, I think that festivals will get bigger because it's a one ticket.
Yeah.
So more people our age will just be like, I'm going to save my money and see a bunch of people at once, and be done with it. So there's that. And they're going to look for more indie bands that don't have as much money, that don't cost as much. Be like, oh, well, these guys sound pretty good. I don't know that much of their stuff, but I heard them on Spotify. They came up on, a For You, and they're way cheaper.
Until they charge $5,000 a ticket.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if that happens enough, then eventually everybody will come to the point where all right, well, all of the people who get audiences are indie folks with very cheap tickets. So obviously our tickets are too expensive. We're pricing our people out. But that's crazy. Dynamic seating. So it's just, oh my goodness.
Dynamics.
I guess in fairness, I guess dynamic seating could go the other way. Theoretically, if a tour is tanking, then everything could get cheaper.
Hey, I'll start my unofficial protest, but not by default. So I'll go that. One random thing related to this that was a very funny point that I thought of. It's funny. So with sports and concert tickets going up, it's funny. And the difference between a sports game and a concert. You go to a concert, I mean, you'll generally know what you're getting. They're going to play the same show, the same ticket and stuff. But it's funny. Say you go to a Met game, you could go spend $1,000 to see them get blown out.
Yeah. No, but seriously, sports, yeah, very difficult.
That's the only big risk there, and they'll still gouge for that.
Yeah, I would never pay $1,000 for any sporting event, I don't think.
Especially if you see them get blown out. But
my favorite sport's predetermined, and I still wouldn't spend $1,000.
All right, Ryan. We have enough for one more story. What do you have for us?
I have
enough time for one more story.
Yeah, I have a few, but as I just alluded to, I gave myself my own segue and kind of decided what I was going to talk about. Obviously, usually when people hear my voice at this point on your show, there's professional wrestling.
Yes.
Either on the Twitter sphere or on the television. A little bit of all of that's happening because next week is SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about something that is trending. Or was trending. I don't believe it is at the moment, but it'll start trending tomorrow again. Because this weekend is Ric Flair's last match.
His third last match.
Yes. If you're a fan about my age or Matt's age, you'll know that he's had one of these before. He's actually had two of these before in two different companies. But this is one, and I was actually just explaining this to my brother, because he was like, didn't he have, and this is also true, didn't he have allegations of misconduct against him recently? I was like, yeah, he did. But he's not doing this with WWE. He's not doing this with AEW or TNA or any of the other major companies. He paid for it himself. Or actually, I believe Jim Crockett Productions is, so I don't know who actually owns that. But it's an indie show that he's putting on. And there's an undercard and there's other people wrestling. But now at 5 or 76 years old, Ric Flair is going to step into a professional wrestling ring. It's him and his new son-in-law, Andrade, against Jay Lethal. For AEW and Ring of Honor fans, you'll know who Jay Lethal is. Or if you're my age and you watched TNA like I did, you'll still know who Jay Lethal is.
He's 73, by the way, Mr. Flair.
Sorry, 73. Okay. And Lethal's partner is Jeff Jarrett, who they dug out of retirement. And then what was even weirder is, so a little bit of synchronicity. So Jeff Jarrett's wrestling a match this weekend, and then the next weekend, for some reason, he's going to be the referee at one of the matches in SummerSlam. So Jeff Jarrett having a bit of a resurgence of popularity. However, people have been talking about this Flair match, and I wanted to give it my 2 cents because I think it's important. I think
right
this
out
is a
of
bad
Nashville,
idea.
Nashville,
Tennessee,
Tennessee.
yeah. I think this is a bad idea. I do. I'm not 100% convinced that Ric Flair isn't hoping to die in the middle of this match. And that's really dark to say, but I said it to a bunch of people and I'm going to stick by it. I don't understand at 73 years old why he would be doing this. It's not going to be good. There's no way that he's going to do well. Now, he's got his son-in-law in the match, who's a very talented wrestler. There's rumors that Charlotte is going to get involved in this match.
She's going to get interfered.
Which will be in it. You know what? And that'll be interesting. One last time to share a moment with Charlotte, because Jeff Jarrett's wife, Karen, is at ringside.
And didn't he just get divorced again?
Yeah, probably. I don't know that, but probably. But I'm saying there is a woman who is in the wrestling industry who's going to be at ringside, so it would make sense that Charlotte would show up to even the score a little bit if Charlotte can work it out with WWE, who seems to be in a very giving mood recently. AJ Styles just appeared on TNA recently, and a bunch of AEW folks came in for John Cena's covering up of Mr. McMahon's crimes. So it's possible. But anyway, point is, at 73 years old, this is just a dangerous idea. It's very dangerous.
Straight up dangerous.
It's not a good idea. And someone meaning Ric Flair, by the way, because everybody else is young. I mean, Jeff Jarrett's not young, but Jeff Jarrett will be fine. You know what I mean? He won't be probably any good at wrestling, but he won't get hurt, I would assume. But Ric Flair is 73 years old, and he was like, what was it, like 3-4 years ago when they thought he was going to die?
Yeah,
like
you almost feel like it's a have you seen Black Swan?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Having a Black Swan moment.
Yes, I almost feel like he wants to. I feel like he doesn't want to leave. I feel like he wants it to end. For real end, not the match to end. He wants everything to end. He wants Ric Flair to end on Saturday. And people are talking about how excited they are to see it. Well, next weekend is SummerSlam.
Well, yeah, next weekend, Sunday. At SummerSlam Saturday this year. And in July.
Yeah. But I'm just like, I'm so stressed about it. I'm seeing people talking about why. I'm like, don't watch this. Don't feed this man's ego.
What if he goes like old Ric Flair? Like get a hit in the head when he was like in his late 50s.
But you know
when you were a kid and bloody.
But you know he's gonna cut himself too, like he used to do. He's gonna he's gonna blade. You know it, like because it's so insane. Why would he be like, oh, I'm gonna do all this stuff, but I'm not gonna blade because that's a bridge too far. The whole thing is a bridge too far. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is insane, and he's gonna do it. Which I don't know. It's like really weird because I don't want people to watch, but I'm so morbidly fascinated about it. Like I'm busy this weekend, so I can't order it. But I'm like, a part of me is like, I wish I could. But the other part of me is like, but I really don't know what he plans.
You don't want to witness a murder on camera.
Right. Like he could get hurt. I would say
even if it would make this segment trend because of your prediction, we don't want that to happen.
And it's just like, because I watched that Cody thing that happened at Hell in a Cell. This was
right.
All wrestling's coming up.
He tore he tore his pec,
Yeah, his pec.
and it was as bruised as like a plum, and it was all
But
over
Cody, yeah. But
all
Cody
over his
is
chest.
Cody's a youngish man. He's at the peak of his career. And by the way, it was torn all the way off. It couldn't tear any further. Like, but even watching that, knowing he couldn't get hurt anymore, at least not in the pec, I guess he could have hurt himself trying to compensate. Watching all that, I'm like, that was so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And but at least, at least I was like, okay, but he's young. He's in there with another very talented professional wrestler. This is Jeff Jarrett against a 73-year-old man. This is not. I mean, again, Jay Lethal and Andrade are both very good wrestlers, and Jay Lethal became famous for his Ric Flair impression. If you guys have never seen the TNA woo off between Jay Lethal and Ric Flair, you have to.
Classic.
It is required. It is required viewing. But I mean, Jay Lethal. I mean, at this point, we're just hoping that Jay Lethal can pull a good match out of Ric Flair, essentially. And I'm like, no. And again, Andrade versus Lethal would be good, but that's not a main event. No one wants to see that. They're selling a match on Ric Flair getting in there and doing all of the Ric Flair things, and he can't do it, and he's going to get hurt if he tries to do it. And I'm worried that he's going to try and do it, and I'm worried that he knows he's going to get hurt and he doesn't care. I mean, that's what I'm worried about. I think he knows he could get hurt. I think he knows he'll probably get hurt, and I think he's fine with it. And that's not a good headspace to be in before a professional wrestling match.
That's the true last ride. We thought Undertaker
right?
was too much, trying to have a perfect ending, but well,
Flair, man.
We could at least know that there won't be any after this. What's he going to be? 80 years old, try to do it? Like Harrison Ford is, they're filming an Indiana Jones 5 with 80-year-old Harrison Ford. He literally just turned 80 last week. But
That's
I guess
insane. That's insane too, but at least that's acting, right? He could pretend. They get a stunt double in there, do all the hard stuff. Ric Flair ain't got a stunt double. He's going in there for real.
Well, maybe this will be the one, and this will be the special moment when July comes to an end and he gets his big moment. And well, one thing, hopefully soon we'll get you and AJ the Man to comment on these big moments in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. And but until then, we just wish the best for Ric Flair, both in health and safety.
Yeah, good luck.
We hope that the country gets at ease one way or the other, both literally and figuratively. But besides that, it was great talking with you, Ryan, about our ticket price issues as well. But it's definitely this summer heat is reflecting on people's tensions right now, and all we could hope it gets a little cooler one way or the other. Ryan, you're gonna get married in about 12 weeks too, so that'll be exciting. So lots of looking forward to there, and hopefully we could we talked about this a while back. Maybe we could pull it off if we did some type of podcast at your bachelor party weekend. We could talk that down the road as we're expanding on more shows like that. But besides that, bottom line is hopefully we see more of you, Ryan, and we'll have some exciting times ahead. And is there anything else you want to say before we go?
At T Tweecap on Twitter if you want to see some of my opinions on other things. If you are interested in the wrestling stuff, and hopefully some of you are, you can also check out some of the stuff I've been writing for the Sportster. Just look up my name and the Sportster, and they'll show up. It's mostly top 10 lists, a lot of TNA talk, a little bit of WWE as well, but I think they're all interesting topics, and I think you might too.
And Ryan's a very excellent writer. He's a lot of fun with it, and we can't see what you do down the line with it. So Ryan Page, everybody, thank you again, my friend. And stay cool out there.
Thanks, you too.
See you later.